Hello, everybody, and welcome to Podfluxxx, episode 50. Ricky, if we were any better at doing things when we were supposed to, I'm pretty certain that this would have been our 1 year anniversary show.
Oh yeah.
But since we missed a taping here or there, we are on episode 50 instead of episode 52. But nonetheless, another big week in professional wrestling. Before we get started, I want to shout out Johnny Radio. We had the VPW 18-year anniversary last night. And when you made up the phrase, the hashtag, if you will, VPW sells out, boy, did we live up to that last night. We were pulling
Oh,
chairs out of the locker room, out from behind the desks for the employees at the venue. We
nice.
were standing room only. Tremendous steel cage match with Bryce Donovan and Jack Tomlinson, and a run in by Platinum Max Caster. Great night, great show.
Cool.
So I just wanted to congratulate Radio on that. But now that we've done some congratulating, let's do some shaming. Okay. So we're gonna start with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Um you know what? I'm gonna let you start and then I'm gonna say my piece afterwards. So go ahead, have at it.
Well, I mean, it was highly successful. They did over 6,000 people, I think. So that was great. I think the last time they were in Chicago for Windy City Riot, I was at that one, and they had Osprey and Moxley in the main event. We had like a 5-on-5 tag, something like that. And well, it was a great show. Couple things coming out of it, I guess. I'm assuming they're setting up Mustafa Ali for something to do post Super Juniors, which
Right.
might which might be maybe him challenging who will be champion, I guess, after what might be Dominion, which will be the winner of the Super Juniors against the junior heavyweight champion. Maybe he'll show up there because he kind of like went on a rant about not being in the tournament, which I think is I don't know. I was a little torn on that as well because it's like I would have loved to have seen him in the tournament. Would have been really awesome. But then if you hold off on him and then bring him in for just a title match, and then he wins the title, I guess, or at least has something go on there. It feels like a bigger deal. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it exactly because they have a couple of like Noah Pro Wrestling Noah guys in the tournament this year for Super
Mhm.
Juniors, and like one of them I wrestled here in Houston. He's just like a flippy guy, so it's kind of his thing. And then the other guy, I don't know. I've never seen anything special out of him, but I don't know. I think it would have helped the tournament to have Mustafa Ali there in a big way overall. But then they went and switched the strong tag belts, set up Kid and Kingston for a
Right.
resurgence in May. Uh, I think they're doing some sort of gimmick match there with those two. I think it's like maybe no ropes or something, or last man standing. I can't remember. It's some sort of gimmick match where it's going to be them two, and I believe it's for the strong open weight title. So that would be awesome to get that belt on Kid. Uh, and then the big news coming out was your boy Moxley, the balding plumber, wins the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship uh, with Tony Khan taking pictures from his phone live in attendance. I'm also torn on that as well. I like when guys are motivated to work somewhere where they want to work, and it feels like everybody going to New Japan and doing the strong shows. Even Jack Perry, is like motivated. They seem to put everybody in the right spots as far as like where they need to be or what type of gimmick. Like the scapegoat thing with Jack Perry, I think it works, obviously. With the crowd, I don't know if you saw, did you see his entrance?
Yeah.
So when he dropped the Chicago flag, it got ridiculously loud. And then he kind of turned over and gave like a little smirk, and I thought, man, like, it looks like he's more comfortable doing this because of, everything that happened. He's just kind of leaning into it.
Well, yeah, he's got it's finally it's some type of identity for him.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I hated him in AEW because he was just there, and it was so stupid and corny. And now you can see him getting more comfortable. He looks more confident in the ring. I didn't like the him and Shooter like hugged it out, and then he like flipped everybody off. I thought like that was, you're kind of shitting where you eat type of thing. He should have, like Shooter. I've met him a couple times. Like, he didn't seem like he was too impressed with Jack, at the end of the match, and really didn't know how to take it. It looked like Jack was like trying to be super extra friendly. So that was a little uncomfortable. I mean, I'm a big, believer in, if you're going to be a heel all the time, you don't have to kiss and make babies every week. It's like he's not in Chicago, at least, you know what I mean? Kind of know where you're at, understand your audience. If he would have just went and flipped off Shooter and then flipped everybody else off, I would have thought that would have meant a whole lot more than hugging somebody. Raising his hand after the match was fucking stupid. But yeah, I mean, as far as like the Moxley thing goes, I think, he's been working for New Japan for a while now, and then, he did a G1, so he's comfortable with a lot of the guys. So I don't know. Naito's I don't know. It looks like he's kind of checked out. I'm not sure if he is or not. He kind of gives me that impression. He doesn't work bad, but in a lot of his interviews that I read, he is very, very critical of New Japan in a big way.
It seems like at work for New Japan is like the look on Naito's face is constantly like, this is the last place I want to be, or the last thing I'd like to be doing with my time right now.
Right.
So,
but yeah, he's also very like, he puts down the fact that the guys don't work hard enough in the locker room, and the younger guys, he criticizes them a lot. He also criticizes New Japan as a company, like kind of every time they bring in foreign wrestlers, he's always criticizes the Japanese wrestlers. Well, we wouldn't have to bring them in if you guys were good. We have to bring these guys in because they're energetic and want to be here, and you guys are here, and you're not doing anything about it. So, and you can't, some of the matches, you can't really argue that, and I don't know if it's gimmick or what, but either way, like, something different for New Japan. We'll see. So we'll see what the reaction is when Moxley gets to Japan with the belt. That'll be the real test.
If Moxley takes this belt and goes to Japan and stays in Japan for 2-3 months, comes back home, does an appearance, goes back to Japan, then I am 110% on board with this. But the real problem is he's not going to do that.
No.
Moxley is going to be on TV in America every week doing garbage wrestling with the New Japan title around his waist.
Yes.
Which is what pisses me off.
So yes, exactly. Yes, I agree. It's just that's what I mean by being torn with it. Like when I see him work in that ring, he looks like, he's there to do his best. And then I cringe at the idea, especially when they announced it, that he'll be there next week on Dynamite with the IWGP belt. And I'm like, like we already had a Bob Sapp moment. Like this, I don't want this to be Bob Sapp 2 moment. It's so that I cringe with that because I feel like it's Tony's way of having a shiny new toy attached to his toy. So he's all about exploiting it, getting it on there. And I don't think Rocky's going to have as much pull as what Moxley does or doesn't do on Dynamite, right? Because he should be saying, hey, you can't muddy up the belt. Like, so we need you to be this way. But Tony's not going to tell Moxley anything, right? And then, so when I saw that it happened, I thought I had a feeling it was. I didn't want to like say it out loud and me be the reason why that happened, but I did not. I don't know. I just kind of cringed. I was happy on one side, for the matches we might get out of them if they keep it in ring matches. So I don't know. I'm just now comes the question of who's taking it off him, right? Like, is he gonna be is one of the young guys gonna win it off Moxley because Naito didn't want to do it? Like, oh, we're building this young, so does Shooter take it off him? Which could be an option there because they're best friends forever. So I don't know. And then what does that do for New Japan? Because I don't think he's strong enough to be a draw for them like they're going to need him to be. So I don't know. It's interesting, at least.
What does any of it do for New Japan? Because outside of social media, you've just put your title on a guy who works in NBA arenas that have a third of the capacity filled on a TV show that nobody watches, and now you just put the biggest mark in the planet is going to be booking your heavyweight title. We're going to be getting like fucking John Moxley versus Preston Vance for the IWGP championship. I mean, or Player Uno, or what's his name? Evil Uno. Like, this is it's bad enough that Moxley's out there in Sami Zayn's finest sweatpants, looking like he lives under a bridge, and now he's going to be representing New Japan Pro Wrestling in America. It just listen, if they wanted him to win the strong open weight title from Eddie Kingston or the regular open weight title, now that's main occupier is elsewhere, but more on that later. It just, I just think it's a bad look for New Japan. I'm wondering, and I don't know if this is just the Carney mentality in me, I wonder if Tony Khan paid New Japan to let John Moxley win the IWGP title.
Ironically enough, Rocky got a big promotion that night too. Did you see that?
Really?
No, yeah, he did. He's vice president of New Japan coordination, talent coordinator, or something like that.
Yeah.
So he's a VP as well. Yeah. So I don't know. Possibly. I mean, I've heard of that happening. So
the vice president of you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. No,
And then he wrestled Roderick Strong for the belt the next
Yeah.
night. So
Yeah, I just there's a lot about it I really don't like.
yeah, coming out of it, like after I thought about it a little bit, like I didn't like it either. Like honestly, and this is just, I mean, personally and everything else, like maybe if Brian would have won it, I thought that would have been kind of, more fitting, I guess. That would have worked better for both sides, I thought. I don't know. It's like when I sit back and look at AEW's roster because they do, bridge over to New Japan. Like first off, I look at the guys that fit in the New Japan style, and I don't ever, off the top of my head, think Moxley's the not even the first five that I would think of. He's not in that group. So they could have heated up Claudio. Would have done wonders for him. I don't know. Just yeah. It was, at the end of it, it was all big buzz and hype, but where does it really go? So I don't know. We'll see what Resurgence looks like, because it'll be his first title match, his first defense. So we'll see if he can draw on Long Beach or Ontario.
You know how in the WWE they talk about the name test. Does this sound like something logical to main event WrestleMania?
Right.
I just want to go through something real quick for you, okay? Hulk Hogan, Brock Lesnar, okay, Kurt Angle, John Moxley. One of these things is not like the others.
Right.
Big Van Vader.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And then it's AJ Styles, even Kenny Omega.
Right. Yeah.
John Moxley. Do you have anything else that you'd like to talk about the Jack Perry from this show for?
I mean, like I said, I didn't care for him before, and at least now he's a little more easy to digest, I guess. I don't know. I'm hearing that this is all just to set up his big comeback, like the footage, and then this, so not really. I mean, he's not really on my radar. I don't really care for him enough to have an opinion. I just thought, like, I think he's doing a little bit better now, so, but we'll see.
When we did our live reaction to the footage the other night, we kind of watched it and then continued on with our recording, and only after did I get to go online.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you did also.
Oh, yeah.
And what your thoughts were on the footage, because I'm sure that you got a chance to check it out yourself.
Yeah.
And then on the internet fan reaction to it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw people, shitting on Punk for it. I didn't see anything he did, terribly wrong. I thought it hurt AEW, if anything, because it kind of showed what kind of circus they got going on over there,
Right.
Other than that, I mean, once I saw the footage myself, first off, well, that wasn't as, I don't know, as violent as everyone made it out to be, or maybe I thought it was more, I thought there was more to it because of the way Tony Khan was scared for his life. And I'm thinking, like, that's just, walking through Walmart sometimes, so it was nothing crazy to me. I've beaten up Phil Brooks a whole bunch of times. So I just think Jack Perry's a bitch, to be honest with you. You know, I like the way Punk just like laughed, like
Yeah.
like before he shoved him. Like, is this guy serious? Like, and then the
Well,
little stuff.
you can see that Jack says something to him,
Yeah,
and then Punk turns his head
to
in the
Tony.
direction that Tony Khan was sitting
Yeah,
in
right.
and says something, and then which I'm assuming was, "Are you going to do anything about this?"
I was gonna say, I think that's that where he hits like, hey, like, yeah, fix this, or I will, and then
Yeah,
he did, and
and
then
then he left,
yeah,
and Phil Brooks.
yeah. So yeah, to me, it wasn't anything crazy, right? But then again, like, I mean, we've all been in locker rooms where, you know, this guy don't like something that happened. So these type of interactions are not like, oh my God, I've never seen anything so crazy. It's like, this is Friday evening at the Elks Lodge, I mean, that's it. You know what I'm saying? So it just didn't seem that crazy. Wasn't anything spectacular. So
The people losing their minds over this about violence in the workplace and stuff
right,
like that, they need to understand that this isn't Denny's.
right.
You know what I mean? This isn't
Yeah,
Dairy Queen. This
yeah,
isn't working for 1-800-Flowers or
yeah,
sitting in a cubicle from
right,
9 to 5 in some office building, right?
yeah,
And they also a lot of the problem is the mid to late 20 somethings and the early 30 somethings in this country now are not of the generation of, well, sometimes you got to smack the shit out of somebody.
right.
They've never been punched in the mouth.
Yeah,
They've never punched somebody in the mouth, and they don't understand the need to have to punch somebody in the mouth.
yeah,
This is the generation that used their words, that told an adult
yeah,
that never had to put their hands up for themselves.
yeah,
And I think that's why the blowback and the fan reaction is the way that it is. Plus, a lot of these people are just justifying, looking for any reason that will justify uh, them defending AEW being the absolute incompetent, drizzling shits.
yeah, for sure. I mean, uh, it's all. I think it's all for Perry's return to
Mm-hmm.
AEW. I mean, this is setting him up. Uh, okay, maybe they do the setup right, like make it, which they are, because now I am a little interested in
Mm-hmm.
what that looks like with him coming back. Uh, the problem is in 3 weeks we won't care about Jack Perry again, right? I mean, let's face it. So, I mean, if you can ruin Edge in 1 week, you're gonna mess everything else up underneath that, right? So, realistically, it'll maybe give them, like, if they were smart, they would announce his return, right, and hope everybody tunes in to see it, and hopefully has something good. But let's face it, they're gonna, even if they did it right the 1 week, the next week it'll be ruined as expected.
I'm predicting the return of Jack Perry to AEW to take place at Forbidden Door. Now, there's been some news about Forbidden Door in the last week or so. Uh, they were going to have this year's Forbidden Door from the Arthur Ashe Stadium,
Huh.
Queens, New York. They switched it to the UBS Arena in Long Island. Uh, I think the reason for that is there's going to be no wind indoors to blow around all the tarps that are covering the unsold seats. What do you think?
Yeah, them running that building, how they were doing it was one of the stupidest things they've ever done as a company. You know, why keep booking that building? Like, come back to it every 5 years, or once every 3 years. I don't know. But yeah, that was as stupid as it gets. But that's what I figured it was for. Somebody tweeted that New Japan was supposed to like pay half, and they refused to, and now they're moving it. And Rocky jumped on that all over that and quote tweeted it and said, "This is not true. No." Like, then he had to tweet later, like, the relationship is perfectly fine. There's nothing, there's no truth to this, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like,
2 hours later, okay, it's kind of true.
Yeah. Yeah. But,
it would make sense. New Japan isn't here to lose money like somebody else is.
Well, that too. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how. I've always been interested in learning how that stuff works, right? Like, does New Japan fly everybody out, and then Tony pays them, or is it like, if it's on Tony's show, he's got to take care of all that? I was always kind of curious. I don't know. I mean, those big buildings in New York City, man, like, aren't those just, even when they sell the Garden out, isn't it still like a loss?
Yeah.
For WWE? I mean, when it comes down to it, right? I mean, you're just kind of doing the Garden to say your dick's bigger than everyone else's at that point, right? Yeah.
Even the thing here is you need to have a union representative from each trade on hand being paid, right? So you need to have the union, even though he's not doing anything, the union lighting guy's got to be on hand and he's got to be getting paid. The plumber, even though Moxley's going to be there, they need the union plumber. And you just, the rent on the buildings, especially in the city, because of them being in the city,
right?
Like, I'm sure they made money at the Barclays the other night, but there's not enough money, not enough seats in the Garden to sell the Garden out and make a profit.
Right.
So now I'm pretty sure last time they were at Arthur Ashe, they did like 12 or 13. So I think it was something around that, which makes sense for them switching into UBS, because at the Nassau Coliseum, you're only going to be able to sell 95 or so, like they did for World's End in December.
Yeah, right.
So even if they do sell 12 or 13, that's not capacity for that building, but it's more than the other building, and then you're not getting killed probably on the overhead that you would on the 25,000 seat stadium.
Right.
Even though the UBS arena is a brand, 2 or 3 year old arena, brand new, seats like 19,000 for concerts or for like hockey or whatever. So even if they sell 12 or 13,000, that's not terrible.
Right.
That's leaving 6,000 empty seats when normally they're lucky if they have 6,000 filled seats.
Correct. Yes.
Like New Japan did for Windy City Riot the other night. So I mean, it's a smart business choice. I know that there is a new CEO or COO or something or other for AEW right now, and since he's been in, this venue has changed. They've released 10 or 12 wrestlers, so he might be, making decisions to try and, be fiscally responsible here. But then Tony Khan turns around and spends, $80,000 buying a song for Mark Briscoe for a Ring of Honor show that nobody knew was happening.
Right.
So, you can have one person trying to be as fiscally responsible as they can, but when the guy in charge, uh, to quote my father, is going to go out and spend $30 on plastic pants every time there's a pair of plastic pants on the shelf, it's not
Yeah.
going to do anything for anyone.
Yeah.
I bought a pair of plastic pants once.
Of
He
course you
gave
did.
he gave me $30 to go to the mall when I was in like 7th grade, and I spent $29.99 on a pair of Nike pants that made the
Oh, okay. Yeah.
every time you right.
Right.
And that was like 30 years ago, and I still get reminded almost monthly about the time I spent $30 on plastic pants. So but speaking of spending money here, I'm trying to think of where I want to go to next. You know what, let's just, we're kind of on the topic of New Japan here, so we might as well stick with it. Did you have Tama Tonga showing up on SmackDown on your 2024 bingo card?
No. I did hear earlier on in the day someone tweeted that he was spotted in Detroit. I guess that's where SmackDown was.
Sure.
So yeah, I didn't know exactly how they would fit him in. I really didn't. I wasn't too sure if they were gonna just throw him right in there, but looks like they did, huh?
Oh yeah, they threw him in all right. What'd you think of the segment? Did you see the segment?
Yeah, I saw. I didn't mind it. It was cool. I'm not. I don't know. Does that audience even care or no? Like, I mean, there was a reaction. Um, I mean, they'll get used to it, right? Because I think isn't that how Solo just kind of popped up too, right?
Kinda, yeah.
So, I mean, that's the bloodline thing, right? That they're all linked together through family. So, I don't mind it. Like, thought it was good. Well, I'm excited to see what he does. Like I'm sure it'll be similar to the Solo, where he's just going to play his role for now, and then we'll see how much more he gets to do. But
Um, I think the deal came together super last minute
mhm.
because I looked back on his Twitter
Yeah,
Friday night once he debuted. I looked back on his Twitter, and he tweeted a picture of a telephone, like the red phone in the president's office,
yeah,
on Monday.
okay,
So I'm interpreting that as,
right,
that's when he got a phone call, maybe, or maybe that's when this whole thing got hammered out.
mm,
Uh, I think it's cool that he's here. I think it's cool that he's going to be part of the bloodline. I just don't like where I think this story is going. We've we, in pro wrestling, being the new anything
right,
is the kiss of death, right?
right. Of course, yeah.
The new Midnight Express,
Or
the new
any
the,
two, any
the new
2.0 of any kind is bad.
right, the new Rockers.
Right.
Uh, the only people I think it worked out for was the New Age Outlaws, but I don't know if there was an original Age Outlaws. So I
Yeah,
think it was.
there
I
wasn't
think
an
that
old age outlaw.
yeah, but what I think they're going to do is I think we know that they signed Jacob Fatu as well,
Yeah,
and I think we're going to see a version of the Bloodline here that is off screen controlled by The Rock, and
yeah,
it's going to be Solo and Tonga and Jacob Fatu, and then we're eventually going to get them rubbed up against a returning babyface Roman Reigns
and
and Jimmy and Jay Uso.
yeah. This is gonna be the NWO red and black versus black and white. In other words,
Yes.
the whole family's got a paycheck coming now, so we're all just gonna take up 5 segments of SmackDown.
Right. But do you remember what happened to any side of the NWO Black and White or the NWO Wolfpack after they fought?
No.
And that's where the problem lies.
Yeah.
The only people that are going to come out of this looking okay is going to be Roman Reigns. It's John Cena versus Nexus, except with his family.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, this could be spinning out of control now. So, I really wish. I don't know how I feel about like Jacob Fatu jumping in there because he's so good. Like,
so special.
I really wish he would pop up on Raw and just do his own thing, to be honest. I get it. You know, you jump right into a main event spot, right? You know, on the hottest shows on TV with the hottest angle in the world right now. But man, if I were Fatu and I could get away from those guys, I would try to, just because then there would be more of a want for him to, you know, get involved, I guess. You know, like if people asked him about it and he kind of just blew it off, you could run that type of thing. But I don't know. I mean, he's so awesome, like so fun to watch, you know. I would love to just see him do his own thing, but I'm assuming they're just gonna pop him right in there. So
yeah, I mean, I hope that if they do have dueling bloodline factions,
yeah,
that it's done well enough where everybody comes out okay.
right,
Because if you look at it, like Roman Reigns, you know, is never gonna be not over. You know what
right,
I mean?
yeah,
Jimmy and
right,
Jay, you know, despite their shortcomings, they're over.
yeah,
You know, but it's gonna, if they're gonna do it this way, it's gonna be really, really important to get Solo and Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu over, like super over, because an angle like this can kill them.
When is the draft? This week?
Bro, you read my mind in such incredible ways. The draft will start on Raw on April 26th and then continue on SmackDown on April 29th.
Okay, so when's the Jacob Fatu debut, you think? Before that?
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't expecting Tama, so
Right,
I don't want to think that they're going to do it in such quick
right,
succession.
right,
So I
exactly.
was thinking that they were going to end up doing something where if I were booking it, I would book Jay in a match with Solo in like 2 or 3 weeks. Okay? And have them hurt Jay or whatever, bop bop bop. And then I'm looking at SummerSlam when I'm finally going to bring Jimmy and Jay back together
Mm,
to face Solo and Tama, and then right when they're about to win, that's where I pull the trigger on Jacob Fatu.
mm,
So I'm still waiting another 4 months to let everybody forget that he's,
correct,
what they
yeah.
saw on the internet,
Mm-hmm.
and hope that it works out. But I'm not doing it. And if I'm booking it, I'm not doing it in 2 weeks, because then it's just
Too much.
you're right. You're hot shotting the whole thing.
Yeah, that's
Two
what I
weeks in a
mean. It's
row,
just
Scarlett. Look at this
it's
dog.
it's just like overflow of talent, like all of a sudden, you know, in this one spot. So it feels like putting too much into it. So
And then
I
you
mean
got to
that would
rush
make
the whole angle.
yeah, that would make more sense to do it that way, to let each thing kind of develop. The reuniting of the Usos got to be its own thing.
Yep.
How that happens, we got to be happy about that. We got to see them dominate a little bit, get back on track. There's a lot of, we gotta highlight Tama at the same
Yep.
time, right? I mean, he's new, so it's
You got
like,
to get heat on Tama.
yeah, you got to let him whoop some ass, get his shit in, so people want to see it. So, yeah, I mean, that makes kind of the most logical WWE sense, like letting everyone digest everything. Um, I like that because that's a big debut, right? Like at fucking SummerSlam,
Yep.
like so that would be great. Yeah.
Instantly
Um,
matter.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. Does this draft mess things up though? What does that look like? Is the bloodline its own thing? Like I keep forgetting every year they change it, right? Like is a group supposed to go over? Does the team go over? Does everyone individually? Is it going to be NXT heavy, where all of a sudden NXT guys are popping up on Raw and SmackDown? There's all these different ways they can throw this at us. So
This year I feel like is so different than any other years beforehand, right? Because you've got Raw going to Netflix, you've got SmackDown coming to USA, and then NXT going to CW.
that's right.
So, do you want to now pull like Ilya Dragunov out of NXT up to the main roster? That way, you can like establish or get somebody else new over for when NXT debuts on CW.
When
And
is
now
that
that
exactly?
you want to have the most impact on Netflix, that you're established on the USA network.
Yeah,
So do you draft the entirety of Judgment Day to SmackDown and then let Cody be the face of Raw on Netflix with the main title? Like, what do you do there now?
right,
What do you do? You've got the WWE World Heavyweight Men's and Women's Championship in the same faction on the same show.
right.
So you splitting out Rhea, like there's a lot to be figured out this year, and they kind of booked themselves in this type of corner by it's a little bit like 1997 here, where it's just gang warfare all over the place. Like we had Los Boricuas and the Disciples of Apocalypse
Right.
and the Nation and DX, and now you've got the Bloodline, Judgment Day, the LWO, the Halado of Orgasmo, or whatever the fuck they are. There's all these groups, and finally you've got a bunch of tag teams. Like none of them are really any good, but you've got a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And you just established that you're gonna split your tag teams up now. It's this is
Yeah.
this is not gonna be, I think, a simple draft for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult, right? Because the big money drawing uh um program is a faction, like one particular faction. So you can't split up all factions then, or, you can't not split up that faction and then
Right.
split up others. I would imagine they would try to keep the teams that are teams together because they split the tag belts. So now we got, now each show has supposed to have their own tag division. So
Right.
I mean, I guess didn't they do it the last time where factions went together, or am I mistaken?
No, they did, but also they didn't. Like
Right.
Judgment Day went as a whole, and
Yes.
then Kofi and Woods went one way, but Big E went the other way by himself. So it's like, I think it's just one of those typical, and this is the new WWE now, but
Right.
back then it used to be, well, if we don't acknowledge it, nobody will notice, or like it'll make sense because we'll tell them it does. Like just kind of like the insulting of the intelligence of us. But I don't.
Maybe they lay it out, maybe they lay it out before tag teams, individuals, and if you're in a group or faction, you move. I mean, that would be the only way to make it clear and easy to understand and make it right. So I don't know.
Do you think it'd be better for Damian Priest to be drafted away from the Judgment Day?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, there's good and bad on both, I feel, for both, like him staying and leading the group. And then, so he appears to have more to him. But then, is he good enough on his own to speak for himself all the time and, believable and viable to pull people into his matches and to have them care? So I don't know, man. Like, I don't know, is more better in this sense for him, like staying in the bloodline? Because to me, it looks like they're having fun and they're really, everyone's doing well. So do you keep them in it? If you draft them away, are people going to say, oh man, like he's out of the Judgment Day? Like, is that going to be his first fucking, knock? Like, well, he's not even in the Judgment Day anymore.
Right.
He doesn't have the aura to him because they cooled him down for the surprise, for the shock value. So how do you, I feel like you got to heat him up with the group somehow. I mean, I would say no. If I were doing it, no, I would not pull him out of Judgment Day.
I'd pull Rhea out.
I think, see, that's the only one that can work right now because she's so on another level. It didn't have to be a whole like, turn their back on her or anything, or vice versa, right? But if she got drafted, like that, maybe that's the one. Like, okay, Rhea's gone. I mean, I don't know, because they both have the same belt, right?
Yeah.
Aren't they supposed to be on that show with that belt?
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing is I don't know what show Cody's supposed to be on now.
Supposed to be on SmackDown because yeah, Judgment Day's on Raw, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so isn't that the whole thing that Roman was on SmackDown and Seth was on Raw?
Yes, but here's the thing: is I don't really watch SmackDown.
Yeah.
But I like to watch Cody.
Yeah.
So now you're telling me I've got to watch SmackDown if I want to watch Cody.
You're right. Yeah. I don't know. I guess they're gonna try to fix all that.
They better. I'm gonna be pissed and I'm gonna write a letter.
Put a stamp on that motherfucker and put it out there in the box.
Yeah. That's still how this whole world works, right? You just write a letter.
Yeah. I think so.
The mailmen are still out there. Oh man. Well, I mean, I'm very interested in what they're gonna do in the draft.
Yeah.
Interested in how this whole new bloodline. I'm calling it the new bloodline, but we don't know yet really what they're going to do. But it seems like what they did with Solo and Jimmy, and then the reactions of Paul Heyman. It seems like we're going to be trending in that direction, but Um, um, After the reset from WrestleMania, I'm already re-intrigued, but I can see different spots where this could go south quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I mean, I guess now we wait for the draft because I feel like that's uh setting up, like you said, Netflix. Um, going into next year, or at least going into some SummerSlam, which should be built as a bigger thing, I'm sure, soon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
And we've got international premium live events coming up.
right.
So
So
better
we'll
heat
see.
Gunther up.
I would hope so. I mean, yeah, they gotta keep him rolling because they built him up so strong, right? It's not believable for him to be on some sort of losing streak now, or
Right.
be used as an underneath talent. Like, he's kept himself up. So what's next for Gunther is going to be huge.
Do
Which
you as a let's put your Booker hat on here. Do you even revisit Sami Zayn and Gunther at
no,
WrestleMania Backlash in France?
no, 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 not at all. No, I get Sammy. I would like to see a heel Chad Gable whoop Sammy's ass and take the belt off him, because Sammy's one of those guys as a babyface, how he is now, that it's just not viable for him to be holding the Intercontinental belt. It should have been Chad Gable, at WrestleMania, but I get why they went with Sammy, because they've got more equity built into him. He did some special stuff with Roman, so he's on a higher level in the office's mind, I'm sure. But I think that they do Sammy and Gable somehow turns heel, because his babyface bullshit is not. No one really cares. He don't wrestle like a babyface. He wrestles a lot like a Kurt Angle, where he's going to be better and more comfortable being a more aggressive, like he wants to be. Like, I feel like when I watch him wrestle, it's like I can feel him holding back, like,
Yeah.
some stuff. So you just need to let that go. What do you do with um what's his name? Steiner's kid. Uh
See, that's a different. I feel like that's a different like situation. Like I feel like with Gunther, like, do you keep Gunther even off of TV until WrestleMania Backlash is done? That way, you kind of don't have to even revisit that. But
yeah,
with Braun Breaker, you can just continue to smash him over and let the fan base digest that until you get to a point where you've got, the draft is all settled, everything is all set, you see what you've got lined up, and then you can give him something to sink his teeth into.
yeah, for sure. I mean, you give Breaker those types of squash matches and build like you were giving Gunther. Give Gunther some time off to be away, for sure. Maybe bring him back at SummerSlam. I don't know. Why bring him back for anything else, right? I mean,
Well, I think there's a pay-per-view in Germany.
okay, well, yeah, we did talk about that, right? I thought we got it confused and it was France first.
Yeah, I'm about to look it up, but I know that
Well, yeah, I mean, if you got, yeah, absolutely, heat them up for that for the Germany show, but um, yeah, who knows? I mean, with this, I don't know. The stuff that I want to say and think about might not even come to, because the draft. We might even have these guys paired up with each other anymore. Who knows?
right. Yeah, Backlash is in France, and then they're doing a King and a Queen of the Ring in
Oh,
Saudi Arabia,
yeah.
and then they've got Clash at the Castle, Scotland, at the OVO Hydro. That is a cool building. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No.
Super cool looking building.
Huh.
Then they got Money in the Bank in Toronto. Okay. And then that's July. SummerSlam in August in in Cleveland. And then you've got Bash in Berlin August 31st in Germany.
There you go. Keep Gunther off till SummerSlam.
Have him come back, get right on Cody at SummerSlam.
There you go.
Boom.
There it is. And then you roll right into it in Germany and let the crowd dictate how the Gunther loses, we riot type situation.
Yep. They've got 1, 2, this is not counting any of the NXT shit. 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, and also Australia was 7. All right. They had 7 international premium live events this year, or they will.
Yeah. Just to the end of the summer, right?
Yeah, well, that's up till Survivor Series. Survivor Series,
okay.
Apparently has not been announced venue or city yet. But I mean,
that's a lot.
You go 7 or 8 different countries, you put 20 or 30,000 people in these buildings, or it's not to mention there's like NXT shows attached to some of these.
Yeah.
So, you know, they've got it all figured out over there. And then meanwhile, the other, if it looks like WCW and it smells like WCW, it's WCW. So that's
early 2000 WCW too.
Yeah, or 93.
Yeah. It's either early 90s or early 2000s.
People, when they talk about WCW, they forget 1990 to 1994 was a thing.
Right, exactly.
Which it surely was. But anyway, I think we're at a good spot here. What about you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Anything else to contribute here tonight? Thoughts, comments, concerns, questions?
No, I'm real curious about this draft this year for some reason. I think they're going to really shake shit up. So we'll see.
Well, we'll see what happens. But for Ricky Reyes, I'm Kevin Fulton. This has been Podfluxxx, episode 50. Here comes the gimmick. Ricky, you have a good night, bud.
You too.